Who is working for who? What duties does the closing agent, the real estate agent, and the mortgage broker have? Good morning. My name is Mike Renick. I am the team lead, the senior broker with Team Renick Real Estate Services, part of that great Keller Williams on the water family, serving Sarasota, Bradenton, the islands, the entire west coast of Florida. Welcome to the November 28th edition of Title Time with Mike and Mike. My co-host today, and I'm not going to bring him on because I want to read his introduction because I love doing this, is a fantastic guy, Michael Hankin. He's an attorney with a law firm of Hankin & Hankin. He practices primarily in the areas of residential and commercial real estate transactions. He is an approved agent for the Chicago Title Insurance Company, the Attorney's Title Insurance Fund, and the Old Republic Title Insurance Company. One of the coolest things, though, he's been designated as a board-certified real estate attorney. I saw the percents on this earlier this week. I forgot what the numbers are, but it's a very small percent of attorneys that reach this level. All around, he's a great guy and very helpful. So let me bring him on board. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
So I'm going to ask an unscripted question here because I like to do that. I usually wait till the end because then we get a safe broadcast. But let's turn it around today. What percent of attorneys become board certified?
I honestly don't know the percent offhand. I know it's under 10%. I guess it's under 5, but I don't know the exact percent offhand.
The number I thought I remembered was 5, but at my advanced age, I try not to quote numbers from memory.
I wouldn't swear to it. I know it's under 10, and I'm sure the number's right on the bar's website. I just don't know it off the top of my head. But I appreciate you putting me on the spot as always.
But congratulations on receiving that great honor. You worked hard for it. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and joining us. So what are we going to talk about today?
Sure. So it's a common misconception that buyers have that the people that they hire to work for them in the transaction actually work for them and owe them duties. So what I wanted to talk about today was the different level of duties, the different people that the buyer would hire would owe to the buyer. In starting out, there's the agent, the real estate agent. And there's 3 different levels of duties that a real estate agent can owe to their buyer in Florida or to their seller. They can act as what's called a no representation agent, and I'll explain in detail what these all mean in a moment. They can act as a transaction agent, and they can also act as a single agent. And those are in order of increasing duties. So the no rep agent has the least duties, the single agent rep agent has the highest level of duties. So a no rep duty, a no rep agent is only obligated to deal with you honest and fairly. They need to disclose any facts that they know about the property which materially affect the value and are not readily observable. And they need to account for all funds that are entrusted to them. That's the end of the no rep agent's duties. They don't owe anything else. It doesn't matter that you picked this person, that you hired them. They don't owe you any other duties. The next highest level, which is the default relationship under Florida law that a real estate agent and a buyer can have, is what's called a transaction agent. A transaction agent is obligated to do all those things a no rep agent is obligated to do, and also use skill, care, and diligence in the transactions, present all offers they receive in a timely manner, and also have some limited confidentiality. So if their buyer or seller tells them a price they're willing to accept or ultimately pay, that can be confidential, but otherwise nothing else is confidential. And then when we go to the single agent, we actually start getting some duties to work for the buyer's best interest. A single agent has duties of loyalty, duties of confidentiality, full confidentiality, duties of obedience, duties of full disclosure. It doesn't matter if it only materially affects the value of the property if you're, or doesn't materially affect the value of the property if you're a single agent. If you know about it, you got to disclose it. And if you take a step back and look at that, by default, as I said, under Florida law, an agent is a transaction agent, a transaction broker. That means they don't owe their client a duty of loyalty, a duty of confidentiality, a duty of obedience, a duty of full disclosure. So that person a buyer hires doesn't necessarily work for the buyer, isn't loyal to the buyer, doesn't need to necessarily try to get the buyer the best deal possible. A transaction agent is there to bring a buyer and seller together and make any deal possible. So it's very interesting. Most people are under the assumption that they pick their agent, that agent works for them and owes them a duty of loyalty, is their agent. And that's not true unless they're a single agent, unless they've given the paperwork that transitions from the default transaction broker to a single agent. The same thing's true. You don't have the reduced duties of a no rep agent unless there's paperwork that transitions from the transaction broker to the no rep agent. One of the things, Mike, that I like about what you guys do is you, to my knowledge, are always single agents.
Correct.
And you work for your client's best interest. You have a duty of loyalty to them, a duty of confidentiality. They can tell you things and you're obligated to keep them secret, things more than just the asking price, offering price sort of things. So that's really, one thing that you guys do really, really well, and I think is in line with what buyers expect, but not in line with what the Florida statute defaults are.
That's always, I don't want to say confused me, but the reason that's that way is something that I'm just going to admit that I'll never understand. Because in business, to me, when you're working for someone, and a real estate agent should be working for either the buyer or the seller, you owe them your A game. And the A game is like, if I'm accused of a crime, and let me go on record that it would be a false accusation, but if I'm accused of a crime, I want an attorney who's on their A game representing me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you would want somebody representing you. You wouldn't want necessarily independent arbitrator deciding your guilt or innocence in that situation. And the same is true when if you have a choice, which buyers do, a big choice in Sarasota County as to what agent to pick. I think you'd want to pick one that's working for you, working for your best interest, working, doing what they're told, which is obedience, which only single agents are obligated to do, working for that party's best interest, loyalty, which again, only single agents are obligated to do. Now, this dichotomy of differences in expectations of duties and reality of duties doesn't just stop at agents. It exists with closing agents as well. For a closing agent, you can pick in Florida a title agent or an attorney title agent. So an attorney or non-attorney title agent. And the same duty or dichotomy of duties exist. An attorney title agent typically represents a buyer or seller, owes them those same level of single agent duties, loyalty, full confidentiality, obedience, working for your client's best interest. A title company doesn't owe those same duties. So a non-attorney title company, let's say they find a encroachment, a house encroaches a foot into a setback. If they can issue title insurance over it, they don't have to tell you. They just issue the title insurance. They don't owe you a duty of loyalty. They don't owe you a duty to do what's in your best interest. They owe you a duty to get the transaction done if they can. So it's a big difference, and it costs the same. It's one of the amazing things for realtors, for closing agents, you don't pay any extra for the extra duties that you can demand of that person. So in Florida, title agent, closing attorneys, non-attorney title agents, and attorney title agents cost almost the same amount of money. Your realtor, as a buyer or seller, is in the type of representation you're going to have almost never impacts the amount that service is going to cost you. So you really can get more by just asking for it, just asking your agent, will you be a single agent for me? Will you be working in my best interest towards what's best for me? Will you offer me full disclosure? Will you be obedient? Will you be loyal to me? And unless you're an attorney or a single agent realtor, you can't say yes to that question. And the similar thing works for mortgage brokers. Mortgage brokers, if you don't set up the right relationship with a mortgage broker, they're not necessarily out there getting the best rate for you or the best terms. They're out there to get you a loan that will allow you to complete the transaction. And oftentimes on mortgage brokers, they can make more of a commission if they get you to accept a higher rate, working actually against your best interest and towards their own best interest. And sadly, there's no disclosure about that. Nothing under Florida law that requires any sort of disclosure to a buyer that a realtor is not working in their best interest, that a title agent is not working in their best interest, that a mortgage broker is not necessarily working in their best interest. So I think the law needs to improve on that. And in the interim, hopefully buyers are a little bit more informed and know to ask the right questions of the people they're retaining to perform these very critical services for them.
Here's a dilemma as I see it from my aspect of the world. I believe in my heart that Florida buyers and sellers assume they're going to get that from all agents. And there's not a need to ask. They don't know there's a difference between a single agent and a transaction broker. And unfortunately, the largest number of agents are transaction brokers, and they're not required to disclose. That confuses the living daylights out of me. When we were looking, when we were an independent company and we were single agents, when we were looking around to join a national chain, that was the first thing. It had to be at a single agency level, because that's the kind of level of service and due diligence and homework and focus that our clients deserve. But the biggest challenge is when folks, and we service the snowbird industry very well, that's the biggest part of the client base that Eric and I service. When they arrive in Florida, they don't know about the differences.
They don't. And the natural inclination is to assume that the person you're selecting to do this for you, that's advertising to you, that's saying, please pick me, you assume that person is working for you. It's a natural assumption. If you hire somebody to paint your fence, they have to do a good job painting your fence. But it's a sad state where the law just isn't quite up to, I think, business, and this is one of those situations.
In my mind, an agent should be required to hand a sheet to the buyer or seller, like I have to as a single agent. But on that sheet, it says there's 3 types of agencies. Here's what they are, and here's the one I am. Please sign here. And that way, at least up front, consumers, buyers and sellers, understand there is a difference and they can choose who's right for them.
Absolutely. And, it really does make a difference. It doesn't cost any more. You just need to know as a buyer that to ask your agent whether or not they can be a single agent. Ask your closing agent if they owe you fiduciary duties. Make sure the people who you've retained to perform these services are working for you. It seems like such a basic thing, but it's critically important.
Absolutely. And I think over time, more and more people will become aware as we do more and more of our shows here. The word gets out, someone sees it, someone tells someone. And we're not suggesting here that a transaction broker cannot be a good agent. all we're suggesting is that they're held to a much lesser standard of service than a single agent. And each buyer and seller has the right to know that and has a right to make the choice that's right for them.
Absolutely, and I don't mean to beat up on other agents. My point is that the law has not, I think, kept pace with how business is performed. So most agents will, even transaction agents, will say my client, and work really as a single agent, even though they don't have those duties under the law. So it's a strange situation, and paying a little bit of attention, I think, can provide some benefits. And I
think you've laid this out really well. I've been involved in multiple videos now talking about this, and listening to the way you described the three levels was perfect. It was strong, it was succinct, it was to the point. It's a frustrating topic for me because I want clients to have the best of the best. And whether it's me and myself or Eric, or whether it's someone else, they just need to have the information up front. And you've done an outstanding job of laying it out and explaining what the differences are. And even, like you said, to the title companies, to the mortgage brokers, all the way back, we've got to ask the right questions. And maybe that's a new front page on the website. Have you asked the right question or something like that?
I like our title, who works for who, because the default, the assumption is not the reality, at least not under the law. Yeah. And, I think we keep doing these videos, keep increasing the awareness, and hopefully through our videos, the practice will continue to change. More people will ask for single agent relationships with their brokers, and maybe the default under the law with enough grassroots change will change. And so, hopefully we'll keep doing our videos, keep getting people more informed, and keep making the practice of real estate and real estate transactions just a little bit better day by day.
It's all about openness. It's about transparency. It's about a laser level focus on your client. But at the end of the day, it's all about plain old fashioned hard work. Does that make sense, Mike?
It really is. It really does. And we'll just keep up the good work, and we'll keep having fun with it.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Michael, thank you. We will see you again next Wednesday morning for another edition of Title Time with Mike and Mike. Outstanding. I really appreciate everything you're doing, Mike.
Sounds good, Mike. Me too. And thanks. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.